All right, cheers everybody. Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Roaming with Moose. It's Heather here and Moose. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. So it's going to be a story time video, and essentially we are going to be talking about Moose. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the origin of Moose. Moose has a very peculiar adoption story. It's going to be weird. It's going to be a little bit of a history lesson. So make sure you grab your beverage of choice, maybe a snack if you like. By the way, if you're looking to make an amazing at-home iced latte, I actually discovered a really cool trick to get it to be extremely flavorful. You're gonna actually pour your espresso and your desired milk of choice into a pitcher, one of those like metal pitchers for steaming milk. And you're actually gonna stir it in the pitcher and then pour everything over the ice. What that does is that it makes it really creamy and you're left with a really good flavor from the espresso. So you learn something new every day. All right, for this history lesson, we're gonna have to go back in time. So we are going to be going back in time to the summer of 2022. We had just moved into our first apartment. This was the first time Joe and I had actually lived together. Before that, we were still living at home. We had gotten engaged the year before. As we mentioned in previous videos, we lived in Westchester County, which is just right outside of New York City. It's right north of the city. In the back of our minds, we always wanted a dog. Having a dog was something that we always dreamed about. It's something that we always talked about. We weren't at a point in our lives where we were thinking about having kids, so a dog felt like the appropriate thing to have. It just felt right. I grew up with a dog. His name was Biscuit. He was great. You know, he was my childhood dog. We had him for 18 years. So right away, we went to multiple shelters in our area. We looked online. We were on an app called Pet Finder, which if you don't know what Pet Finder is, it's basically like an app for dog shelters. Or like people who have dogs up for adoption. And it's kind of like Tinder, and you like swipe on dogs and you can like meet them or like, you know, pick a certain radius of where the dog is. We were not having any luck. We were not really connecting with the dogs that we were seeing. We also were trying to adopt a dog in an apartment, which if you haven't done that before, this was just our experience specifically, but trying to adopt a dog was insanely hard. We did not meet a lot of the requirements because we lived in an apartment, even though we, you know, had disclosed that we were like avid outdoors people. We go on hikes, we go to trails. Joe was also working remotely at the time, so there was going to be one of us present at all times for the dog. So I'm not gonna lie, the process for trying to adopt a dog at that point in time was so difficult. And we were so disheartened, and then we kind of took a break and we were like, maybe we're just pushing this. Maybe it's just too much. It's not the right time. It was a process. It wasn't like an overnight kind of thing for us because this was a big deal. You know, this was our first dog together. This was like a big milestone in our relationship. So we wanted to make sure that we were not making any foolish decisions when adopting a dog. Fast forward to October of 2022, I had found a listing on Facebook just randomly. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't searching on Facebook. It just kind of appeared because I guess the algorithm saw that we were actively looking for a dog to adopt. So it was just flooding my feed with dogs in New York, rehoming dogs. And it popped up on my feed and it was this really adorable litter of puppies. And I believe it was a rehoming of Aussie Doodles or something. And it was like rescued Aussie Doodles, you know, in need of, like, there's like 2 left in need of a home. So I messaged the man immediately who made the posting, and turns out it was real. And he was like, yeah, you know, they're in Rochester, New York, which is, if you don't know where Rochester is in comparison to New York City, I'll try to put a map or something up here to show you, but it is really far. It's not like a close proximity whatsoever. So he was like, yeah, you know, there's 2 left. Like, there's, you know, this one and this one. They were rescued from some sort of puppy mill, allegedly. I don't know the story exactly, but I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, like, this is perfect. Maybe 2 nights later, we were still in communication with the man. We went to Petco to pick out everything. We got, you know, collar and food and like treats and toys, and like we just got like a whole bundle of things for this puppy. And we were in Petco and the man had messaged me online. We were literally online to check out, and the guy messaged me and he said, oh my God, my wife had sold the puppy when I was away at work, so there's no dogs left. That feeling of disappointment was, oof, because like, you know, when you get like attached to something that like you don't have yet, but like I just got attached to this dog, so I was like, oh my God, this is like, finally, we even had a name picked out, and it was kind of crazy. I think, like, in hindsight, it was probably for the best, because upon further research, apparently this was a scam, which, now looking back, yes, like it totally was. But nonetheless, I was extremely disappointed. I was so sad. I was like really angry at this guy. I was angry at myself for like falling for this trick. So Saturday morning, the next morning, we were just eating breakfast. I was so sad. I was like crying and eating at the same time. I remember it so perfectly. I got a phone call from my dad, which kind of took me by surprise because it was early. I like picked up and I was like, is everything okay? Like, good morning. Quick little backstory. My dad used to own a business in Greenwich Village in the city. He was the owner of this business, and he went back to the store. Like, this was in Manhattan. He does seasonal window painting. His Instagram is actually right here if you guys want to check it out. He does great seasonal paintings and windows, so he actually went back to paint the window of his old storefront, like for Halloween. And he actually ran into his old customer on the street who was, you know, a patron of the business. He was like, oh my God, like, how are you? And the woman had 2 dogs out on a walk, and my dad was like, oh my God, your dogs are so cute. You know, he was petting them, and she was like, yeah, you know, I'm just getting them out because they had puppies recently, accidentally, actually. Essentially, she was taking her dogs on a walk because they had puppies, and she was just getting them out. And my dad was intrigued. He was like, oh, wow, you know, like, that is interesting. They were just talking, and she was just like, yeah, you know, she had the puppies, and they're so cute. There's one more left that is the runt of the litter, and we just can't find a home for him. Dad was like, what? I can't even make this up. It's so unbelievable. So that's when, fast forward, let's just time warp to me and Joe eating breakfast that morning. That's when he calls me. He is with her, with the woman, on the street. And my dad is like, Heather and Joe, you guys are not going to believe what is going on right now. He's like, don't freak out, but I found your dog. Like, this is your dog. My dad was like, she's gonna send you photos of the puppies and like which puppy is available and this and that. And he was telling us the story, and she was literally standing right there next to him as he was talking. He was like, how fast can you guys get to Manhattan? And for those of you who don't know, Westchester is like an hour-ish away from Manhattan, give or take with traffic, of course. And we were like, immediately, like, what are the chances that there's this like one puppy left in the litter that my dad just ran into his old customer on the street of Manhattan, New York, all right? There's like millions of people, okay? Joe and I were like, no matter what, this is our dog. Like, there is no way that we are not getting this dog. Like, there's no way. So immediately we stop what we're doing. We're like, we're gonna go there now. We literally drove into Manhattan. We didn't even take the train. We were just like, let's drive. So it was me and Joe, my dad, and the woman. And we went into her apartment and oh my God, there were 6 puppies in the litter. So the puppies were born in August, so they were still with their mother. You know, they were still like weaning. I will never forget it. We walked into the room. There was like a little space that the puppies were in. And we saw Moose. He was very small in comparison to the rest of his litter mates. It was just one of those moments where we were like, wow, this is unbelievable. We held Moose for the first time and I was sobbing. I was like, this is my dog. Nobody can tell me otherwise. Okay, but here's where the story gets a little crazier. The woman had a son and he was, I guess, like 12, 13. This is hilarious. He comes into the room and it's like the equivalent of The Godfather almost. He like comes in with his arms crossed and he's looking at me and Joe and he's like, so you're thinking of adopting Peanut, huh? That was Moose's name, Peanut. That was his original name that they gave him. So we were like, yeah, you know, like your mom said that he didn't have a home and we're really eager to adopt a dog and we like would love to take him. And he has us sit down. He's like, have a seat. So Joe and I sat on the couch. He's literally sitting in an armchair with his legs crossed, interviewing us. And he's like, so tell me why you think that I should give you Peanut. I'm like, oh my God. So Joe was like, you know, we were telling him our story of, you know, we live in an apartment and, you know, we hike a lot and we do a lot of outdoor activities. We travel, this, that, and the third. Then he says, well, there's a bit of a problem. My best friend wants to adopt Peanut, which wasn't disclosed to us. So like, my heart sank. I was like, oh my God, like there's no way that like they're gonna give us this dog, because obviously seniority of like the son's friend's family adopting Peanut is gonna take over me and Joe, because who are we, right? Like, and I was like, oh. So he was like, kind of like, yeah, my friend really wants Peanut and their family is looking to adopt Peanut as well. So why do you guys think that you should have Peanut as opposed to my friend? And I was like, I was sweating. I was so nervous. And I was like, well, Joe and I, we don't have any kids of our own. This would be like, he would be like our whole world. And I was like pleading my case. I was like, please. I, you know, looked at his mom, because his mom was there. And he was like, okay, let me talk to my mom. So his mom kind of gave me a look of like, which I didn't know that what that was at the time. So they went into a different room and Joe and I were sitting on the couch with the pup. It was like me, Joe, my dad, and the puppies, like in this one room. And we're just waiting. We're like waiting to see what they're gonna say. They come back and his mom looks at us and she looks at her son and she was like, you know, honey, you know, the friend actually changed their mind. They're not gonna adopt Peanut. This, that, and the third. And the mom looked at us, because what I think had happened was the friend might have like said it in passing, but they weren't like serious about it. So there was a whole like miscommunication with the son and the mom. Mom was like, do you guys want Peanut? And then the son was like, I think you guys are really good candidates for the dog. Like, I think you guys would make a great fit. And we were like, oh my God. She was just like, you know, if you could just give me $100 for, you know, the first round of vaccines. And I reached into my wallet, I gave her a $100 bill and a handshake, and that's how we got Moose. This is the photo that we took after we made the deal. You don't even understand how insane, like the whole range, I felt like a whole range of emotions in that moment, because there was a thought where we were like, are we even gonna get this dog? Like, is this 13-year-old boy gonna like stop us from getting a dog? And we were just like, oh gosh. So they were still too young to be taken away from their mom, so they had to stay a couple more weeks, obviously. So we were like, okay, that's totally fine. But those few weeks, man, oof, like I was just dying. I was like, I need this dog, like I need him so bad. A few weeks goes by, and unfortunately, 2 days before we actually picked Moose up, my childhood dog Biscuit did pass away, which was devastating, because that was the first dog I ever had. He grew up with me. It was like my entire life was with Biscuit. It was almost like a closing of a chapter and a new one starting in the same breath. It, you know, things worked out the way that they did, and then I kind of had thoughts of like, am I ready to have another dog after going through like this huge loss of losing a childhood dog? And I was feeling so many different emotions during that time. But I can honestly say now, looking back, it felt like weirdly Moose was the universe sending us him. Like, I felt like the universe had sent us Moose. And that sounds kind of crazy, but I feel like it was just the timing. And when we actually adopted Moose, he had a white patch on his chest, which was the color of Biscuit, and it was like very strange. Like this energy that I can't even explain to this day, but I feel like the universe had brought us to Moose for a reason. So my whole like grief shifted because now I was the mother to a puppy, and it was like our whole world changed. It changed overnight. It was hard. It was scary. And I was still grieving over Biscuit. So it was like very like tough to like understand that. Man, there was a stretch of time where it was just me, Joe, and Moose. And you know, he was just, I mean, he's perfect. He's of course perfect, right? But he is such a wonderful companion. He is so loyal. He is so intuitive to our feelings. He's so smart. He's so wise. He's taught us so many things about who we are as people. And he was a big catalyst in wanting more in life. We, you know, when we were talking about the bus and we were talking about our journey, we wanted him to have a full life. We wanted him to get to experience all of these amazing things with us and run in different places and smell different places and, I don't know, just be a dog and just really explore and roam. Just tying back to the beginning of the story, Moose, it was essentially roaming with Moose because we were just like, we want to give Moose this opportunity, along with us, obviously. But we were like, this dog deserves to live this life with us and live a full life. And we realized very quickly that living in an apartment was comfortable, but it was not fulfilling for us. And essentially, when we got the bus, that was the first thing that came to mind, roaming with Moose. Like, this is essentially what we want to do. So yeah, that is the origin of Moose. It is a really beautiful story. It's a really interesting story because, looking back, it's like, it was so unexpected, and so like the sequence of events were just like, I feel like it's made up sometimes. Like, how was this even real? It felt like he almost fell into our laps, and that's kind of what we were saying after trying so hard to find a dog, to search for something. I feel like the best things in life are just things that are unexpected. As for Maple's story, I wish it was a little more interesting. I found Maple on Facebook Marketplace. Well, if you find this stuff interesting, make sure to hit that subscribe button. A like, a comment would be great. But until next time, thanks for tuning in to Roaming with Moose.